conditions are met. So this is not a done deal just yet. But let's get right to our chief foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell, in Tel Aviv with reaction. Ian, what more can you tell us about this statement from Hamas?
Yeah, I mean, essentially it's a yes, but. They're agreeing to some of the elements in there, but they seem to be adding their own conditions. And there's a lot of detail there that isn't mentioned. They say that they're, in principle, ready to agree to the release of the hostages, according to the exchange formula contained in President Trump's proposal. But they say, provided that the field conditions for the exchange are met. And of course, it's not clear exactly what those field conditions are. They say that they're ready to immediately enter in negotiations through the mediators. Well, again, President Trump's proposal doesn't envisage a further negotiation. It is an emphatic take it or leave it proposal. They also say that they renew their agreement to hand over the administration of the Gaza Strip to a Palestinian body of independence, what they call technocrats. Again, President Trump's proposal doesn't talk about a Palestinian body. It talks about an international body with Palestinian consultation, but primarily involving Arab and Muslim countries, as well as this kind of technocratic authority, including the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. And it kind of kicks the rest of the issues down the can. So I think we just have to wait and see. We have to wait for the American team to interpret this, to see what details there are. It looks like an attempt to delay the process. It's not an emphatic yes, and it's not an emphatic no. Overall, it appears positive, but frankly, there's more that we don't know than we do know.
As you noted there, hopefully an encouraging sign here. Ian Pannell for us, we appreciate it. Let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. And Mary, we know this, as Ian pointed out, comes days after the president laid out his 20-point plan, and they were waiting on Hamas to respond, and the White House also making threats that if they didn't, there would be hell to pay. So what are we hearing from the White House right now?
Yeah, well, we are still awaiting. We certainly have asked for what the White House makes of this response from Hamas just now. But of course, it was just hours ago, earlier this morning, that the president took to social media and said that Hamas had until Sunday evening at 6 p.m. to reach an agreement, saying if an agreement is not reached, all hell like no one has ever seen before will break out against Hamas. Now, while Hamas appears to be agreeing to portions of this plan, clearly there is a lot left to be negotiated. So one key question here is, is this enough to satisfy the president's deadline? If they're continuing to negotiate, or is the president insisting that they have to have a done deal by Sunday evening, or else Israel will be able to clearly continue its attacks, whatever all hell will break loose may mean. Now, I actually asked the president earlier this week if he considered this 20-point plan to be a take it or leave it deal, or if there was some wiggle room here to negotiate. And while he wouldn't say flat out, he certainly left the impression that this is the deal that's on the table, that he didn't have much patience for additional negotiations, though clearly Hamas is looking to negotiate some terms of this. A bit of a reminder here of what the president's 20-point plan calls for. It would see Hamas release all of the remaining hostages and agree not to have any role in the governance of Gaza in any form. In exchange, Israel would agree not to occupy or annex Gaza and would slowly pull out its military forces, though not fully. That, of course, is a huge sticking point among many sticking points here, Whit.
Mary, stand by with us. Let's go back to Ian Pannell, because, Ian, we were looking at some of the images there of President Trump with Prime Minister Netanyahu earlier this week. That's when they agreed to this plan, when they unveiled it. What more do we know about those discussions behind the scenes and how this response from Hamas is likely to be received in Israel?
I mean, there's been intensive discussions behind the scene. We knew that the Special Envoy Steve Witkoff was meeting with the Israeli delegation. Remember, they'd all gone to New York for the UN General Assembly. They'd met with him a couple of times. In-depth discussions had gone on for hours and hours. Again, there are varying interpretations out there. Did the Israelis come away with it with all that they wanted? I think the reality is no. But does it offer certainly Hamas or the Palestinians everything they wanted? Absolutely not. I mean, none of this process envisages a viable Palestinian state at the end of it. And what it's asking Hamas to do is vote itself out of existence. And so, look, I think the reaction here is the Israelis, certainly the Netanyahu government, are cognizant of the pressure from President Trump. And they're going to want to appear to be compliant to what it is that the Trump administration wants, as is Hamas. If you look at this statement, it appears to be positive. It appears to be agreeing with what President Trump has proposed. It mentions President Trump twice, thanking him for his involvement, his attempts to bring an end to this war. But the reality is going to be interpreted one of two ways here, Whit. Glass half empty is this is Hamas kicking the can down the road, is trying to shift the goalpost by saying, well, we'll agree to this, which wasn't even mentioned in the first place, but we need to discuss that. Again, negotiations were not envisaged in President Trump's 20-point peace plan. The positive side is, well, it appears to be a positive statement. They're looking forward to an end to the war, to the release of all the hostages, which is clearly a key demand for President Trump, as well as Prime Minister Netanyahu. We need to see that, first of all, the detail, what the key negotiators are saying, that's Qatar and Egypt, and primarily what the response is from the Trump administration.
Ian, thank you. And please stand by for us as we're still getting some more information right now. Let's go to former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for the Middle East, Mick Mulroy, joining us right now. And Mick, I just wanted to ask you about this pressure campaign that was happening across the region. We know multiple Arab nations signed on to this plan. How much of that do you think made a difference here?
So what I think it was substantial. This is, quite frankly, if it holds and we look at a ceasefire here, it was in large part because so many of the Arab nations signed on to this 20-point plan by the Trump administration. So we have to see, the devil's in the details, of course, but if this goes forward and there's an end to this conflict, the hostages come home, obviously significant benefits, humanitarian assistance into Gaza for the Palestinian people. It was in large part because of this pressure campaign put on them by the Gulf states.
Forgive me, I was just getting some information in my ear here. And Mick, if I could just follow up on that. We know that there have been proposals and agreements in the past. Hamas has found reasons to delay, and then ceasefires have fallen apart. Is this what leads us to believe this could be different in any way?
Well, I think in part because of the overwhelming support for this ceasefire agreement. And it's important to point out, not only is this of benefit to Israel, it is of benefit to the Palestinian people. This will be a sea change in their current situation, not just the 600-plus trucks of humanitarian assistance going into Gaza, but a plan for a new governance in the future, a plan to essentially rebuild Gaza that would be billions of dollars contributed by many in the region to do so. It is a very big step for the Palestinian people and ultimately could lead to a two-state solution in a Palestinian state if it was done in accordance to that plan that was obviously in keeping with the Israeli security concerns. But if they agree to this, and they also get amnesty under this agreement, the remaining Hamas fighters could literally lay down their weapons and get amnesty. So there is benefits to every side of this. Let's hope that it actually holds and we can see this being agreed to finally by both sides of this conflict, and we can see an end to it.
Now, we know there is so much hope around the world that perhaps this could be the thing that brings peace to that area for now. Ian, I'd like to go back to you because questions remain about what it's going to take to get this over the finish line, and I understand you have some additional reporting on that.
Yeah, that's right. One of the Hamas leaders has been interviewed by the Al Jazeera channel and specifically was asked about this concept in President Trump's peace plan, whereby as soon as it's agreed upon, there is a 72-hour window for the release of all the hostages. This particular leader of Hamas saying delivering the captives and remains within 72 hours is theoretical and unrealistic under the current circumstance. And this is what I fear here. I think everyone wants this to be as positive as possible because, as you said yourself, everyone wants this to be over. They want peace to Gaza. They want development to Gaza. They want an end to the war. Israel wants it. The Palestinians want it. The surrounding countries want it. But we shouldn't forget that Hamas is an organization that it sets itself out to achieve two things. One is the destruction of the state of Israel, and the other is the establishment of a Palestinian state. There is nothing in this 20-point plan that leads them any closer to that. And you're asking what is regarded as a terrorist organization to vote itself out of existence. And I think the real fear, and you'll hear that here in Israel, is that what they're doing is playing for time. And the question is, President Trump has presented himself, and we saw this again in his post on Truth Social, as being impatient, that the clock is ticking, they need to respond yes or no. And actually what we've got is a kind of yes but moving the goalpost. And I'm not convinced at the moment that that is going to be enough.
Ian, panel for us again, we appreciate it. And just to make clear, once again, Hamas agreeing to release all of the remaining hostages as long as the withdrawal from the Strip is completed and the war is ended. And this is the quote here: proper field conditions are met. That going to the reporting there that Ian was laying out. We're going to continue following this coverage across all of our platforms on ABC News. You can go to our streaming channel, ABC News Live, our website, abcnews.com. Then we'll have a full wrap-up on World News Tonight. I'm Whit Johnson in New York. Have a great day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.